I'm a 62-year-old African American woman living in Colombia alone. I had to figure out safety on my own. So I created this safety checklist just for you. Number one, research the neighborhood, not just the city, because you're not just going to be living in Medellin, Bangkok, Mexico City, Lisbon, Cape Town, or wherever it is that you're going. You're going to be living in an actual neighborhood, and that neighborhood will determine what your day to day experience is going to be like. I begin my journey by putting ChatGPT AI to work for me. And no, that's not a commercial or a promotion, that's a practical strategy. I begin by telling Chat the city that I'm considering visiting. And then I tell it my must haves and my deal breakers. I also tell it how I want to feel in that particular neighborhood. For example, I personally want a neighborhood that is walkable. I want it to have lots of cafes, of course, a convenient grocery store. I want it to be an active community, but not necessarily loud. I also want it to be a neighborhood that is safe and convenient for a single female traveling solo. All of that strategy helps me to narrow down a neighborhood that may be a perfect fit for me. However, here's the reality. No amount of research can tell you exactly how a neighborhood or even a city is going to feel upon your arrival. When you're going to a new city, I highly recommend that you book a short stay first, perhaps just a week. That gives you an opportunity to get a feel for that neighborhood before you make a longer term commitment. That gives you an opportunity to navigate around your neighborhood and your city so that you can feel what it feels like during different times of the day. And also to know whether is this the neighborhood that I want to wake up in every morning. And guess what? If that neighborhood does not fit your expectations, you have the flexibility to relocate. Number two, have a solid plan for your first 48 hours because those first 2 days are super critical. You're usually tired, you're overstimulated, and you're trying to take everything in all at once. More than likely, you have landed in a country where you do not speak the language and you're in an airport that you have never seen in your life before. And meanwhile, your phone may only have 2% battery. That's if it's working at all, because you may not have known to activate an international phone plan before you left home. Upon landing in a foreign country is not the time to try to figure things out. Before I leave home, I make sure that I have an international plan that's going to work in the country where I'm landing. I also make sure that I have a fully charged battery pack. I also know exactly how I'm getting from that airport to my accommodations. Am I using a private driver? Am I using Uber? Is there a designated area that I need to meet them? I need to know all of that specifically before I arrive. Another thing that I am adamant about doing is that I put the address of my accommodations in my phone. But I do not solely rely on my phone. I also use pen and paper and I write it down because you cannot depend on your phone alone. I also want to understand clearly what happens if my flight is delayed and I arrive later than expected. Because the last thing you want is to be standing in an unfamiliar airport in a country where you really don't speak the language with your luggage and you're exhausted, you're tired, it's late at night, and you're standing there and you're trying to figure it out. That is not the time to try to figure it out. Trust me on this one, if nothing else. I have been that woman who landed trying to figure it out. And by the grace of God, I figured it out and I'm here today to witness and testimony on that. But I don't want you to be that woman. I also want to understand, how am I getting into my accommodations once I arrive? You do not want to be standing on the street trying to figure out how you're getting inside, especially if you're arriving late in the evening. Once I am in my accommodations, I pull up Google Maps. Why? Because Google Maps will show me where the closest grocery store is, where the closest pharmacy is, where the nearest bank so that I can get local currency is. It will also tell me where the nearest emergency or urgent care facility is. Now, we hope to never need the emergency or urgent care facility. However, if you have an emergency, that is not the time to try to figure out where do I go. Having a plan for those first 48 hours is about eliminating unnecessary decisions when you're already tired and trying to adjust. Number three, and this is perhaps the most important item on this list, situational awareness. Situational awareness is not about being fearful. I do not walk around Colombia scared and paranoid that everybody's out to get me, but I am paying attention. I notice my surroundings. I notice when I'm walking down the street and it becomes less populated. I know when I'm walking down a block and it seems a little sketchy and I do a U-E and get back on the other side. So that is what situational awareness is. Just having your antennas up, not being paranoid, but just being aware. Now, let me say this to my Black sisters in particular. We know how to read a room. We've been reading rooms all our lives. We know when something is a little off, when that tone or that vibe just isn't the same. Before anybody else acknowledges it, we see it and we feel it. Do not leave that instinct at home. That instinct that you have developed over 50, 60 plus years, that is your most valuable thing to pack and take with you. As I wrap this up, there's one thing that I truly want you to remember. You are not too old to slow travel or move abroad, nor are you too late to make that move. I do not want you to let fear clip your wings, but I do want you to be prepared before you go. Safety is not about expecting something to go wrong. It's about being prepared to respond if something unexpected happens. At this stage in life, you have done too much living and learned too much about yourself to ignore your wisdom now. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. If any of this was useful, please feel free to like and subscribe. And remember, it's never about movement, it's about meaning. Stay unmapped and stay open.